Well, I wrote a poem concerning the Attica prisoner killing the other day, when this actually didn't happen, but it explains how the black brothers felt who died that day out there in that prison. The warden Rockefeller sent word, shoot to kill if they don't give up in 5 minutes. And the white wardens who had all the guns trained on the black men said, if you don't surrender, if you don't come out now, we will kill all of you. You got 5 minutes. Then what's your reply? And a black man came out and he said, better far from all we see, to die fighting to be free. What more fitting end could be? Better surely than in bed, where in broken health we're led, lingering until we're dead. Better than with prayers and pleas, or in the clutch of some disease, wasting slowly by degrees. Better than of heart attack, or some dose of drug we lack. Let us die by being black. Better far that we should go, standing here against the foe. Is the sweeter death to know? Better than the bloody stain on some highway where we are lame, torn by flying glass and pain. Better call in death to come than to die another dumb, muted black man in the slum. Better than of this prison rot, if there's any choice we have got, kill us today on the spot. Better far our fight to wage now while our blood boils with rage, lest it cool with ancient age. Better violent for us to die than to give up in Uncle Tom and try, making peace just to live a lie. Better if we say our sooth, we gonna die today demanding truth, while we're still akin to youth. Better now than later on, now that fear of death is gone. Never mind another darn. You know what happened after that? They killed them. But they died right there for freedom. One thing, and to show that those black brothers, when they said they've been mistreated in prison, behind the closed doors, they had a good point, and I believe them. They were treating unhuman because the officials of that prison said unto the world that they sliced the throats of the guards, and that's when they shot. But the doctor, who was also white, gave the black men justice. He could have sliced the throats and just said it since they were dead. But he said not one throat was sliced. So the prison officials lied to the world, said that them men sliced the throats before he shot them. If they lied to the world, what did they do to them men behind the bars every day before this was revealed, right?
Can I ask you, what do you see your own place very clearly as an athlete and as a figure in this particular dispute we've been talking about? What about other black athletes, Mohammed, like, say, take Patterson as an example, or
what Patterson?
The others, Floyd Patterson?
Oh, he's completely opposite from me.
Yes.
He ain't no way like me.
Yes, precisely, that's why I'm asking you about it. What do you think about the other black athletes like them, who in their time have had influence, or would have been in a position to have influenced people, their own people and this sort of thing, about their attitude, which is certainly slightly less moderate than yours, or slightly more moderate rather than yours?
Well, they go down in history just been athletes. They don't. I'm giving more praise and credit for what I'm just doing down this show than coming here and beating 5-year-old English champions.
Oh, at the same time.
Because right now, black people, when you show this show, are home jumping, home shouting, because they don't have the nerve to say what I'm saying, and nobody has never said it, and they're just so happy to see a black man who will stand up and jeopardize every quart he's got to tell the truth. So, like Floyd Patterson and other fighters, they just don't take part. They make $1 million, they get them a Rolls Royce, they get them a nice home, they get them a white wife. Well, I made it, America's great, and the rest of them catching hell, and he won't say nothing. But when one man of popularity can let the world know the problem, he might lose a few dollars himself telling the truth, might lose his life. But he's helping millions. But if I kept my mouth shut just because I can make millions, and then this ain't doing nothing. So I just love the freedom and the flesh and blood of my people more so than I do the money. You can take it sure and play it right in Washington, let Nixon hear it. Right? And I'll be happier. See, so I'm not ducking and running from nothing, and this boldness and telling the truth makes me just overshadow sports greatly. You couldn't get Joe Frazier no box on this show and get an interesting subject like this. Nothing to talk about. How do you feel, champ? I hate to run for
You mentioned President Nixon there. I was reading a piece that Norman Mailer wrote about you recently, where he described you as the second most prominent American, second most prominent after Nixon. We might dispute that. But would you like to be president?
No.
No?
No, sir. Too dangerous. Like, in other words, here's a ship. People are dancing on the ship. A lot of money's on the ship. A lot of food's on the ship. And I cannot integrate on the ship. I cannot have equality on the ship. I'm just in the galley working. And I never could get up and see the captain of the ship. Now, all of a sudden, the man tells me, say, come on down. I'll leave out of the galley. I want you to come up here and have something to drink. What do you want? And giving me number one spot. From the galley to the number one spot. I said, this ship must be sinking. Why is he so nice to me now? What moved him to call me up here? Black men have been males now. One might be the president. America's in too much trouble. I don't want that job now. Something to think about, ain't it?
Right. Can I, to lighten it a little bit, away from the political thing for a while, I saw a picture of you in the paper 2 days ago, I think it was, cornered by a group of fans, mainly women, in a supermarket somewhere. Can I ask you what the problem is, if it is indeed a problem to you, about being regarded as one of the world's most attractive men and the kind of fan adulation you have from women?
I find what?
Fan worship.
From who?
Women.
Oh, I don't pay no attention to it. I don't consider myself a no attractive man. People like Tom Jones. He's in that rank, and Elvis Presley. I'm not nothing like that.
Well, whether you want it or not, you are. I mean, people for years have been saying you're one of the most attractive men in the world.
I know it. I was just... No, I don't pay that attention. I've never heard that till I got to England, seriously. I've never heard this before. I've never heard this before, but I don't pay no attention. I just try to stay halfway decent looking, because boxing's a rough sport, and you get hit a lot. And right after the fights, I run right to the dressing room, run right to the mirror, and I check and make sure I'm still, presentable. It's a rough sport being pounded on all the time. A lot of people's features change, mainly when I fight them.
Have you ever...
You told me before the show I'm a poet, politician, comedian.
Yeah. You've
making
shown,
it come true.
You've
right?
shown all of it, yeah, right. What about also being a champion? A thing that I've often wondered about. Do you get people coming up to you wanting to take a swing at you?
Swing at me?
Yeah.
Repeat that question. What did you say? Do I do what?
You know, you hear stories of some champions who say one of the problems is that every guy thinks he can fight you, wants to take you on, and he's going to prove it someday in a bar, you know. Have you ever had that at all? Never had anybody daft enough?
Oh, if a man dreamed, if he even dreamed to be, he better wake up and apologize. Hit me, walk up and just hit me. He would stand the easier chance in Vietnam with a BB gun. No, I don't. I've never noticed that. You see movies of fighter or gangsters or somebody come up and hit him. I don't have no trouble like that.
Yeah.
Never.
What about this other thing too that people have about the heavyweight champion of the world? They always look at him and think he must be fearless.
Fearless.
Of everything. Are you fearless? Do you have any fears of anything at all?
Yeah, I fear. I'll tell you what I really fear. I fear airplanes.
Join the club, I do too.
Yeah, and like when the flight's all right and it's smooth, I'm all right, but I'm still thinking, what if an engine blew up? What if a fool's got a bum on it? I mean, all of these, I look at the, I go up to the cockpit and I look at all these things they're messing with, and I say, what if one thing is just off? And we're between America and England over the ocean. I said, where would we land? Even if he don't blow up and he don't crash, where will we land? And when we land, will I be able to get my life raft out? Then when I get it out, how long will it be before they find us? Because it's night, you know. Yeah. And then will a shark come and bust the thing? And all this goes through my mind. See, so I've been on a lot of planes that hit thunderstorms where the pilot says, ladies and gentlemen, we tried to get around it, but we can't. We're going to have to, it's going to be kind of rough. And when the pilot says this, it's going to be bad when they say it's going to be rough. And the plane starts to falling and swinging, and you see the wings look like they're going to break, and it's lightning and thundering, and you say to yourself, boy, well, I could have took a train, I could have, if I just get off this thing. So, like, I'm always in airplanes all the time, and it just worries me. Rocky Montana went down in one. One went down going to Scotland or somewhere the other day. Hunting some people just blew up in the air, and somebody saw it. And I just imagine what are people thinking, knowing the plane is falling. You're not yet dead, but you're waiting to hit the ground. It's awful.
How do you travel when you're in the States? And you travel by road whenever you
Mostly
can?
by Rolls Royce. I've not been paid for that commercial.
Talking about fear, do you ever get frightened before a fight? Do you ever get nerves before a fight?
I'm nervous, but not frightened. I'm nervous because I have a great insight on. I just don't see the audience. Every camera, I see millions of people. Like the Frazier fight was watched by 1,000 million people, which is 5 times the population of everybody in the United States. Just a picture arena with 1 million people. I imagine you couldn't see them all. And just think about 100 million and 1,000 million. And all those people and everything, that makes me nervous. Just the idea of me just being a humble fellow from Kentucky, got lucky in sports, and now here's the fight was piped in a place like Thailand to the government house, and Arabia and the government officials took time off to watch the fight, and just for 2 men boxing, attracting so many people of all races and nationalities. In Hawaii, I understand, they stopped, closed all the factories, and the people, they set televisions on every other street corner. People came out watching the fight on the streets, and every bar in America, every house, even traffic was still during that fight. In Madison Square Garden, 10,000 people couldn't get in, and just over 1 man, and just imagine all them people watching you, that makes me nervous until I get started.
And then no nerves at all?
No.
No. What about the business? I read a book by Jack Olson about you, Mohammed, in which he said that one theory put forward about your behavior toward your opponent before your fight was that, in fact, that this was nerves. This was a way of working off your nerves when you, like you did with Liston, and indeed all the people that you fight, where you cycle them
A lot of
out.
time I make predictions of what I'm going to do before the fight. That makes me nervous because I've gotten so good at it until people really look for me to do it. See? If I said a man's going to fall in round 5, like I predicted 5 round Henry Cooper here, he was stopped in 5, but it was on a cut. It wasn't because he was out. But like usually when I'm on the spot with predictions, it worries me because some people really gamble and bet money on the rounds I say.
On the prediction?
And they say, if you don't get him in round 7, I'll lose my house, I'll lose my car. And I said, what? I said, did you really believe that I meant that? I said, yeah, I don't believe it. That worries me.
Yeah. What about this prediction thing? I mean, is that just a showbiz thing? I mean, or do you really
It's a
mean it?
little show business. It helps the crowd, and I mean it, but I put emphasis on it. And then a lot of time I've been lucky enough to predict 17 times what round. I missed 4, but 17 of them I predicted, which is almost a miracle.
Can you predict other things as well, apart from boxing?
A lot of things that I feel is going to happen, like a lot of people, and like sometimes, like we might go half a year without an airplane crash, and I'm flying every day, and I said, it's time for a plane crash. I mean, I don't wish for nothing like that, but I said, things are too quiet. And 2 or 3 days later, a plane crash landed in here. And it's always 2 or 3 in a row. And and a lot of times I feel a lot of things, but I can't. I'm sure we all have this built-in radar what we predict, or we feel something's going to happen, and when it happened, we just say, I knew this, but I just didn't say anything about it to nobody, but you knew it.
You mentioned earlier on about the fear that you have, and every fighter must have it, of getting his face messed in.
No, I don't have fear for that.
You don't fear for that?
No, I don't really fear for that because I control it. So I don't control the airplane or the pilot or what he's doing. And like when you're in a car and somebody's turning corners, and you notice you kind of on the edge and you're watching. But when you're behind the wheel, it's not like that. See, so like when I'm in the ring, I'm handling it. And I don't worry about nobody being that good to really hurt me, see.
What about the other thing, though?
Somebody say, shh, if you don't believe it, come down here and try it.
What about the other thing that could happen in boxing, the brain damage? Because as you said, I mean, Frazier was under intensive...
Yeah, we checked on him. He's all right now. They thought he might have some trouble. James Ellis was in a critical point at the end of the fight, and I pulled off of him. Most fighters are scared to say they lightened up because they call the fights fixed or they say you carried him. I tell them quick, but I got him. They can't do nothing about it because they always talk about fighters dying, how brutal it is, and they always, mainly me, been a religious man, been in a brutal game and could hurt somebody, and they say precautions should be taken. I think the best precaution If they talk about gloves should be bigger, the fighter should wear some type of head protection or face protection. I think the best caution is if a fella's winning a fight on points, he's got a man just about out, the guy's against the ropes and about gone, and he should not just try to hurt him just to satisfy the crowd or to make money. See, Ellis has got a family. He's an ex-friend of mine, and he wants to live too. And and it's really silly when you think about fighting. I look at other fighters fighting, I say, I must be a fool. Here are two men like two roosters. You know them cockfights. They take two roosters and they put them out, and they put knives on them, and the roosters are fighting each other, and they're not even mad, don't know each other, and just to please somebody. And here are two men in the ring fighting each other, and they're hitting each other, and they're bleeding and they're fighting. What they mad about? They're not mad about nothing. And just a bunch of agitating, bloodthirsty people saying you can whoop him, he can whoop him, my man can whoop your man. All right, y'all get in there and fight. Humans should have more sense than that. And you sitting out there dressed up, drinking your beer, and and they just fighting, and they just get. And this is serious. The nose is bleeding, the eyes cut, the teeth is out, and the brain. They might have a concussion just to please you. Human beings. It's real savage. And I said, I'm not going to be that kind of fight. I'm going to dance and be pretty. I'm just going to win on points. And if I hurt my man, I'm going to let him go. I'm not going to kill him just because somebody's watching. I did it to Floyd Patterson. I did it to George Chuvalo. I did it to Carl Miltenberger. I did it to Henry Cooper when he started bleeding. I just pulled off of him deliberately, blood just pumping and gushing. And he's got a family. He's got children. And I just can't. James Ellis, I can't see myself with a man on the ropes and just to prove how bad I am. And I see I got him, his eyes in his head, he's helpless, and I'm just deliberately hitting him. I don't do that.
But didn't you, I remember one fight I saw you gave a boxer a real going on that. I think it was Zora Foley.
No. One punch.
You cut him.
One punch. He was a nice fella. I got him real quick. It's one right hand. I didn't cut Foley at all. That's my last fight before they took my title. Madison Square Garden, I remember. It was in round 7. Everything was going good. Nobody was hurt. And he threw a jab. That did it. Not through two of them. The first one missed, but the second one hit him.
But have you never really lost your temper in the ring and really wanted to kill the guy that you're fighting?
No.
You must have, Muhammad.
No, let me tell you now. When I was a kid, I got mad enough to want to kill somebody. But when you travel the world and I'm struggling like in a freedom fight against nations, our nation, you can't get enough hate in you to be mad at one man, just because it's a boxing match or something. Never. Even Floyd Patterson, who condemned my Islamic religion, didn't want to copy Muhammad Ali, and I should have went to the army and I should be in jail. And as bad as he was, I wasn't really mad at him because he was brainwashed by the establishment, and I can't take it. But I gave him a whooping and a spanking because I was whipping those who backed him. Frank Sinatra told Floyd Patterson how he should whoop me. Frank Sinatra. And he had Floyd Patterson in his room. He came to Las Vegas. He was singing in a nightclub, and Floyd was his boy to whoop that old black Muslim, his good Roman Catholic boy, Floyd Patterson. And you know, after I whooped Floyd Patterson, Frank Sinatra wouldn't talk to him. It was in a magazine. He went back to tell Frank he was sorry. He didn't bring the title back to America. All that silly stuff. And Frank Sinatra turned the back. Frank Sinatra turned his back and walked out on him. He put in the book how bad he felt when he let down Frank Sinatra. Who want that kind of image?
You mentioned there
the devil with Frank Sinatra.
Boxing about being pretty and fighting clever and this sort of thing. Do you think you have, in the time that you have been a professional fighter, do you think you've changed heavyweight boxing for the better?
Well, during my time, in my era, I can say it's been changed. More interest. Like when my title was taken, boxing died. Joe Frazier fought his last fight with Bobby Foster, Detroit, Michigan. They drew about 4,500 people. Place held about 11,000. I do more than that in training. 4,000. We had 11,000 at the supermarket the other day in Birmingham. And Manchester had 15,000 just talking and signing autographs. But like now that I'm back, it's alive again. Because like what did I do? When they gave me my title back, I could have waited for Joe Frazier, but I didn't. I fought Jerry Quarry, gave him a chance. After Jerry Quarry, a few weeks later, I fought the rough Oscar Bonavina, a man who almost whooped Joe Frazier. Then I was right on Joe Frazier. I livened the game right up. Right after Frazier, he's somewhere still resting. I done fought James Ellis. Now I done signed to fight Buster Mathis next month. So in 1971, I done had just about 5 fights. And I got 3 more planned after Buster Mathis. So from the time I fought Frazier the first time and second time, I would have had 5 fights. The way Frazier's going, he wouldn't even have 1. See, I'll keep it alive. Patterson had the title. He fought Ingemar Johansson 3 times. Took him 3 years to settle their argument. Then Sonny Liston and Floyd Patterson took 3 years. Other contenders have to set up and just wait. You have a good man in this city named Joe Bugner. I want to give him a shot at it. I do. I want to give Joe Bugner. I mean, if he's crazy enough, I'll give him a shot.
I'm glad you said that.
No, I'm just joking. I hear he's a pretty good upcomer.
Yes, well, no comment. Could you, are you able to say, people talk about this in sport all the time, they say, well, Dempsey was a great heavyweight and Louis, he was a great heavyweight, and they're always talking about, could they beat the present champion? Are you able to say, do you think with any amount of certainty, how you might have managed against some of the great ones in the past? I know it's only a game that people play, but what do you feel?
Well, I can't really say. It's up to people to pick. Like Joe Louis was one of the greatest fist fighters. He didn't have the footwork, but he would take his time, and he had sharp, hard punches. And Dempsey was more of a wild, rough fighter, a little like Marciano, and he was good. Marciano was the best slugger, I would say, street fighter.
Yeah.
And Jack Johnson had his awkward, great boxing style. Gene Tooney was great. All of them. Tony Galinto was a little heavy-set fella who hit real hard to the body. I have my style of moving and dancing and whatever I do. So what you'll have to do is to take all of the fighters, take me, take all of them, and then you just rank me where you want them. So I can't tell you.
What plans do you have for the future now, apart from fighting?
Well, just I'll tell you something. I don't think I've ever said this before, but I'll tell you. I really care nothing about boxing. Boxing is a stepping stone just to introduce me to the audience. Like if I was still in Louisville, Kentucky, and never was a boxer, I might get killed next week in some type of freedom struggle, and you never read the news. But now, if I'm even say the wrong thing, it makes news. So like, boxing is just to introduce me to the struggle. Like when I speak, I draw people in the States to draw my people, to teach them various things, which will give them dignity, pride, and self-help, and go for self, and help the ghetto, and help the dope, prostitution problem, the juveniles, and I use my image to help or do all I can to stop a lot of trouble among our own people fighting and killing each other. So boxing is just going to be another year, but my main fight is for freedom and equality, and this is what I plan to do in boxing. It's good for livelihood, but mainly money don't really mean nothing, because I proved that when I gave up the title, not knowing if I'm coming back or not for 4 years, and they let me back on my terms. I didn't deny nothing, I believe. It's still the same everything. So if even today, if my title hadn't been given back to me, if I got such in poverty where I had to go find a job, I would have did that. But I made a good living speaking in colleges, because the war got unpopular, and so many black militants were trying to do all they could, and I was naturally right in the middle of all of it and represented it, and that kept me alive. But if I couldn't fight, I would still not be fighting. So number one comes freedom first for my people, equality, and this is what I plan to do after I'm through fighting, working with nothing but the people, the little people in the alleys, the wine heads, the downtrodden people, going out among them and helping them with my image.
Do you find that the people's attitude in America changed towards you? Those that criticised you at the time when you refused to go in the army, afterwards, 2.5 years when Vietnam became an unpopular war, do you find their attitude had changed towards you?
They're
You
on
became
my
a hero?
side only for reasons of war, not religion,
No.
not for my people's freedom.
No.
I was involved in something that they didn't like, and I was involved in something that they later agreed with me on just that subject. But the same people that are with me for not going to Vietnam because that saves them and their children, the same people will give me hell if I turn around and say, now listen to free my people now.
Yeah.
So they're with me only on that part of my belief,
Yes.
is the war, that's all, not for my freedom.
Yes. Muhammad Ali, can I ask you, before we have to close down, sadly.
1 hour's gone by already?
Yeah, already.
Boy,
Hard to
time
believe, huh?
flies when you're in good company, don't it?
There's talk of a rematch with Frazier, and anybody who saw the first fight, I'm sure, would be, that's what they want to see, because it was a great fight. It was one of the best fights I've ever seen, I think. Are you going to make a prediction about your return?
Well, I have a poem.
Ah,
We got 1 minute?
1 minute,
The
easy.
poem goes like this. People say, what's going to happen? You meet Joe Frazier again. Here's how the fight's going to sound on the radio for those who can't afford to buy the expensive theater seats. And the fight goes like this. Ding, Ali comes out to meet Frazier, but Frazier starts to retreat. If Frazier goes back an inch farther, he'll wind up in the ringside seat. Ali swings to the left. Ali swings to the right. Look at the kid carry the fight. Frazier keeps backing, but there's not enough room. It's a matter of time. There Ali lowers the boom. Now Ali lands to the right. What a beautiful swing. And the punch lifts Frazier clean out of the ring. Frazier's still rising, but the referee wears a frown, for he can't start counting till Frazier comes down. Now Frazier disappears from view. The crowd is getting frantic, but our radar stations have picked him up. He's somewhere over the Atlantic. Who would have thought when they came to the fight that they would have witnessed the launching of a colored satellite?
I see. And all that adds up to a new world champion, does it, in the rematch?
Yeah, it must have been funny, because y'all see you got a little tear or two away from laughing. If the person laughed until they shed a tear, it was really funny.
Yeah. Muhammad Ali, thanks a lot. I really
I have one
enjoyed
more
that.
poem about your show. Two seconds.
All right.
I asked how much money was I getting, for taking up all my time. I used to get a little paid for this. And they said your budget's kind of low and you don't pay too much. So I wrote a poem, and I'm going to close with this. I love your show, and I like your style, but your pay is so cheap, I won't be back for a while.
That's it for this week. See you sometime next week. Goodbye.